All right, let's go to Bridget in Baltimore. What's up, Bridget?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. What's up?
So I have an interesting question. So my stepson, who's 20, moved back to the Baltimore area not too long ago. And we were getting our nails done one day with my husband and him, and he casually said, "Oh, by the way, I had a threesome with my brother and his wife." And so my husband and I don't know how to handle that.
Really? Okay, so I the whole picture here is fantastic. And by fantastic, I mean like highly disturbing. So how old are you?
I'm 26.
This is even more fantastic. How old's your husband?
43.
Okay. And all right, so he has remarried somebody basically the same age as his kids.
Yes.
And y'all, all three of you, were out getting manicures together.
Yes.
Incredible. And then I say incredible. I guess that's not a bad thing, to each your own. My dad's never taken me for a manicure. I may hit him up for one over the holidays. So the three of y'all are out, and while y'all are getting your manicure, your stepson, who's the same age as you, sounds like a country song. Your stepson, who's the same age as you, tells you and your husband, "Hey, BT Dubs, I had a threesome with my brother and his wife."
Yes.
Was it just like a casual, like, "Hey, by the way, Starbucks, the pumpkin spice lattes are coming out early this year. Oh, and was it like that? Or was it like a big
Yeah, pretty much. He didn't really think anything of it. He thinks it's totally fine.
All right, so there's no way. I've met with some folks who have some very outside the bell curve sexual preferences, proclivities. Nobody would think this is super normal or super cool. What was the follow-up conversation like?
There was nothing. So that's what I found upsetting, is my husband didn't really say anything about it because he has PTSD from being in the Army, and he says nothing really shocks him. So he didn't really find it that.
All right, so
wild.
Hold on. Not responding to that has nothing to do with PTSD.
Okay.
It doesn't. It's not like nothing can shock you fine. PTSD is a diagnostic. That's a trauma response. That was just simply he either froze or he doesn't care. But that's not, those are, I would not conflate those two things. So let's say that, like, how long have y'all been married?
5.5 years.
Okay. So you were 21?
Yes.
And you met this strapping 39-year-old? How'd y'all meet?
Facebook.
Oh, I love the internets. Of course you did. That's fantastic. Wow. Okay, so what's your question? How about that? Let's start there.
So my question is I told my mom this, like, because I was so shocked and I didn't get a reaction to him, and I was kind of like, how do I process this? So I called my mom.
Why'd you call your mom? You're like a grown married. Like, why'd you call your mom? Is she just like a confidant for you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so she said that. So the plot twist of this is that he came back to the area because
there's a plot twist.
Yeah.
I thought this was most of the movie. Let's plot twist. Go for it.
It's that he is working for my husband and I. So that's why he came back to the area.
Okay.
So I was telling my mom about the situation, and she's like, well, you should keep it just professional, because we were taking him out to eat and trying to help him out. I was going above and beyond, doing all kinds of other stuff for him to help him out. And so my mom's like, you should stop doing that pretty much and take a step back and just do business with him now. But my husband's like, why should you treat him any differently? Because this was in the past. And the reason why he stopped doing this with his brother and his wife was because he said he wasn't attracted to his wife. So he would have kept doing it had he found her attractive.
But that means y'all have had more than one conversation about this. Or was that
after that? Like, this is like a few weeks ago. So I brought it up to him because I was like, I'm a little disturbed that you're not saying anything about this. And I think you need to tell him that it's not right.
okay? And what was the response there?
He's like, I told him, but what do you want me to do? Cut him off just because he did something like this? And I was like, I don't know.
Okay. You're the only person on the phone with me. And so I can only talk to you. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I am I won't say outside the box. Nothing like your husband, nothing surprised me. Nothing shocks me anymore, okay? And I am almost universally very sympathetic to situations people find themselves in, whether it's addiction, whether it's sexual like whatever, wherever they find themselves. I always want to sit down and offer a drink and some nachos and let's figure this out, okay? But nobody else is on the phone but you and me. So I will say, I will boldly state, I'm going to go way out on a line, like on a thin line here, and say, having sex with your brother and your brother's spouse is pretty screwed up by any metric. It's pretty distorted, disturbing behavior. Okay. But that goes way over here because that's not the real issue. Here's the real issue. You are an adult 5 years into a marriage, and you are responding to those around you like a child. You call your mommy for advice. You're talking to your husband as though he's your dad. And you are bouncing your values and your safety and your business off of, you're not making decisions from a value-based core, okay? So the issue here is, yes, that is outside the bell curve. That is way out there, okay? Anybody listening to this, very, very few people will experience their son having sex with his brother and his wife, right? Very few people. All of us will experience, I don't want to be around X, Y, and Z. I don't want to be around certain behaviors. I don't want to work with certain behaviors. I'm not going to have employees that work for me that act certain ways. And you have to decide what your values are, what you will and will not tolerate. And then you've got to make those decisions based on your values. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so let me ask you, do you want to do business with this person? Because A, you're disgusted by it, but B, I can hear in your voice you don't trust this person, their wisdom, their decision-making, like I can hear it in you. Do you want to do business with this person?
I mean, if it's just business, then he's okay. But personal life, there's just a bunch of crazy stuff that happens with him that I don't want involved in.
And that was my next step this is not one isolated incident. Let me say it like that. There's going to be other behavioral issues. Is that fair?
Way more.
Okay. So, have you sat down and told your husband, I do not want to have meals with this person. I don't want this person in my home.
Yes. And he gets kind of like defensive.
Okay. So there is a challenge that you found yourself where you're going to end up pitting you and your values versus your husband and his kids. This is different when they're at home, right? And this is I'll tell folks the opposite of what I'm going to tell you. When there are young children at home, you can, as a stepmom, if you will, you can never pit your spouse against their kids. This, in my mind, is different because this is y'all's home, right? These are grown kids, lived somewhere else, and now they're circling back. And this is, I think you've got every right to say, this is what I need in this home. Or let me ask you another question. If he lets this kid move in, he's like, hey, he's falling on hard times, he's moving in, are you going to stay?
We've already done that once.
Okay.
And I mean, so the question, he has an apartment, so that's not going to happen, but.
Oh, sweet Bridget. It can happen anytime. It can happen anytime. Anytime. So let's just call it, like, what are your boundaries going to be? Is there ever a moment when you're going to leave?
I don't know.
You do know.
Because when I have so many people in my head telling me, like, oh, it's not wrong, it is wrong. I know it's wrong, but I don't know how to handle it. Like, where do I draw the line?
Nobody thinks that's okay. Nobody. You've had friends and family tell you, dude, it's all good. It's cool.
Not exactly cool, but like everyone's like, oh, well, I did a Facebook poll on it just out of curiosity.
Oh, God.
Some people are like, it's not your business, so stay out of it because they're adults.
Hey, you know what? That's different. That's actually accurate. It's their business. But when it becomes your business is when that sort of character, that sort of behavior, that sort of lack of judgment and wisdom comes into your home, comes into your business. So you can't make adults stop doing behaviors. You can't.
Yeah.
The only person you can control is you. So, A, never put family business in a Facebook poll. Good God, Bridget. Don't ever do that ever. 2, the advice you got is actually correct. The question you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to do? Not what are they going to do? Your husband can't stop them. His 2 sons from having sex together. He can't. And having threesomes, but he can't stop that. What he can stop is, I'm not going to participate in that world. And let's make it.
Does that mean he should just do business, or does that mean we should just cut?
I don't do business with people that I wouldn't share a meal with.
Okay.
I don't, because business, you can't bifurcate the business. There's a fantastic study, and I remember driving home with my eyes bugging out of my head that this was a study, and that I was like, didn't we all know this? But clearly we didn't. Do you remember back in the day, you may be a bit young, there was, I think was it Holly Madison, Kelly? The website, yeah, it was Ashley Madison. Okay, it was, Bridget, it was a site called Ashley Madison, and it was do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so it was a quote-unquote anonymous site for married people to have affairs with other married people who are interested in it. And it was kind of like Tinder or whatever. It was like way upstream of those. It was earlier on, but it was, you could put in your email address and put in your credit card number and then meet up with other married people in your area. Somebody leaked all of the email addresses, and there was a big take, like famous people and fancy pants religious, like people got busted, okay? But a couple of social scientists did a study. They took the addresses and went and thumbed through companies and businesses in the U.S. And I'm going to butcher the details a little bit, but the findings are, I remember them. They went through the companies and found that people who were on this site, who were willing to cheat on their spouse, had more ethics violations, had more business issues, had less profits, etc. Why this was huge was it had always been known. You just need to get the best baseball player. Drug addict, cheats on his wife all the time. It's fine because he shows up and performs on that field. Or get this best CEO. Doesn't matter their ethics. They can have drug problems, crazy stuff, have private jets that fly to islands, whatever. They're going to show up and they're going to produce. They're going to do great. And what this study showed was that if somebody's willing to cheat on their spouse, they're going to cheat in their business. If somebody's going to cut corners in their personal life, they're going to cut corners in their business because that's who they are. That's the way they operate in the world. And so I tell you that to tell you, if there's decision-making happening in somebody's personal life that's like, what are you doing? I wouldn't trust you with my child, then I'm not going to trust you with my business. The other side of that is this. At the company I work for, they give us all debit cards. Debit cards, not credit cards. They give us debit cards. And one of my favorite things about my boss, his business buddies are like, I can't believe you would trust your employees with debit cards to the company account. And his response is, I can't believe you would hire people to run your business that have your family's name attached to it that you don't trust enough with your money. If you're going to trust them with your name, you see where I'm going here? There is no difference between business and personal when it comes to, I trust you here, but not here.
I just feel bad because he quit his job to come out here and work for us. So that's why I feel guilty too.
And so now this becomes about you trying to squash how you feel, squash your values, squash what's important to you because somebody else is going to feel bad. The non-technical term is you're a people pleaser. You're a peacemaker. And peacemakers often go to other people to ask for how they should feel about things.
Yeah.
Like their parents, even though they've been married for 5 years. Like their spouse, even though they're disgusted and they feel not right and not level. Okay? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I want to make real clear. Well, give me a couple of examples of other behaviors that make you just say, no. I don't want this person in my house.
So he used to call the cops on my husband and make up that he was beating him to try to get his dad in trouble because he wouldn't let him go like out with his friends and stuff like that.
Okay. So you've got integrity issues and you've got wisdom issues, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there substance abuse issues as well?
No.
I would challenge that. Stone sober?
As far as I know.
I said earlier, I don't get shocked by much. I would be shocked by that. Here's the deal. So you've got this outside of the bell curve situation, right? Yeah, you've got somebody in your life that's doing life differently than your set of values. The first thing you got to do is you got to sit down and identify what your values are. What's the life you want to live? What's the life you want to lead? You cannot change other people's behavior. So your internet poll was right. Like, the people are going to do what they're going to do, right? And I'm all about letting people do what they want to do. The only person I can control is me. And the only person you can control, Bridget, is you. And so at some point, you got to say, here's what I'm going to tolerate in my life, and here's what I'm not. Here's what I'm going to share meals with, and here's what I'm not. And the people that I've had at my house stay at my home, across the spectrum would shock people. I love having people at my house. I like my kids meeting a wild array of wonderful, different people. My life is enriched by that. But one common thread through all the people that stay at my home, all the people I consider friends, all the people I consider people that I love, has very little to do with political spectrum, has very little to do with whether I agree with all their behaviors or not. Has way more to do with, do I trust them? Are they wise? Are they loving people who care about me and my family and others? And that's not the situation you find yourself in. It sounds like you find yourself in a situation where you feel scared and exposed and your eyes just bug out of your head and you're looking around saying, is everyone else seeing this? And everyone's kind of just putting their head down and saying, let's just keep going, let's just keep going. And at some point you got to look in the mirror and say, I'm cool with this. I'm good. This is going to be what this is going to be. I married this guy. I'm in. And so if he's cool, I'm cool. Or you're going to look in the mirror and say, I'm going to draw a line and say no. And I'd rather choose guilt over resentment. I'd rather feel guilty that I tell this young man, hey, either you got to make some major life changes so we can trust you and your wisdom and your character, or you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go. And you're going to feel guilty about it. You can feel bad about it, but it doesn't mean it's the wrong thing. Either that or you're going to just live with this behavior over and over and over and over and over again. And by the way, the behavior I'm talking about is not about him having sex with his brother and his brother's wife. That's disturbing in its own little world. I'm saying behavior, things that violate your moral compass and violate your values. You're going to have to, at some point, say, this is the line I draw. And you might not be able to get rid of them, but you might say, I'm going to choose to walk. Thank you very much. It's a choice you got to make. And I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep. And I would stop calling my mom. And I would get one or two close friends of mine who are around my age, maybe a little bit older, with some wisdom, and sit down and say, okay, I got some hard decisions to make. Here's what comes next.